What's going on, everybody? This is Cisco over here in Fireside. We're going to do a master's class today on the PIX recording device and the switcher. The switcher is typically ran by our service director at the moment for the weekends. And the video, we have actually two video racks here. We have one sitting on the desk in between the switcher and presentation, and then we have another one right down there, okay? So let me walk you through this equipment real quick, and you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about. Okay, this here is the controller for the switcher. The switching actually happens in that piece of equipment right there I'm pointing to, that gray one. That is the brains of the switcher. So when you hit a button or handle the T-bar on this piece of equipment here, all it does is it's just telling this rack unit over here what to do, okay? And what the switcher does is it switches signals between like what's going up on the screens. You can see right now all three of our projectors are on. The center screen is not down, so we're just projecting on the curtain for the moment, just for this illustration. And we're getting ready for Element Youth. So you can see here that I've got a bunch of buttons here. Okay, it can look overwhelming, but I'm going to break this down to you. Okay, so what you have here is the very bottom row of buttons is called Preview. So if you look at your multi-viewer screen, you've got lots of different boxes, lots of different things to look at. You've got a preview box, a program box. Program is what goes out to the screens, okay? You've got Pro Presenter. That's obviously coming directly from the computer. PIX 1 Center. We're going to get to that in a minute. PIX 1 Side. I'm going to explain that in a minute. Hyperdeck, which right now it's showing the stage display. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then at the very bottom you have Auxiliary 1, Auxiliary 2, Auxiliary 3, and another program box, okay? So watch what happens here. If I put, well, before actually I switch anything, let me show you another thing real quick here. You'll notice I've got different options. Black, Pro 1, which is your Pro Presenter computer, Center, Side, and Hyperdeck. So if I go here to my preview buttons, and let's say I select Side, you'll see now that in preview we see the same thing that's on PIX 2 Sides. And what that means is PIX 2 Sides, that is what's currently on the side screens over in Element Live. Okay, so it's just an announcement loop. Let's say that I want to go and select Pro Presenter to my preview. Now it's going to be in that preview box, okay? And all the preview box really that we use for over here in Fireside is just so we could see the image a little bit bigger before we put it on program. Program, again, is what sends it to, it's going to send it to the screens. So for instance, and this is only the side screens, okay? We're going to get to the center screen in a second. So here above the preview buttons I got program buttons, okay? So you can see here I got again the same selections. So if I hit Side, watch what happens. I'm going to hit it in 3, 2, 1. So now you can see that I'm sending my side feed to the program. And what's happening here is you've got the announcement loop now up on the screens because the program feed is sending PIX 2 Sides to program. Okay. So that's how that works. It's very simple. So you can see here if I toggle a few different buttons, it's going to go between all these different things and sending them up there, whatever I have toggled at the moment, okay? So that's how that works. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the very top row of buttons is what's called an auxiliary. And we can select different auxiliaries here, Auxiliary 1, Auxiliary 2, or Auxiliary 3. We're not currently using Auxiliary 2 or 3, that's why they have color bars on them. So Auxiliary 1, that's set up to go to the center screen. So think of Auxiliary 1 as the center screen, okay? And so again, if I select Side on the center screen, I'm going to do that in 3, 2, 1. You can see now that it's going to the center screen. So now I've got the same thing, and I know it's hard to tell because of the lighting, but let me see if I can adjust that real quick. So you can see that whatever is on the center screen is also on the side screen. So But that's basically an overview in simplest terms of how the switcher works in Fireside. Very simple, very, very simple. Okay, so let me walk you through the recording now. What we do to record over here in Fireside is we use this device here, and it's made by Video Devices. You can see there. Focus that. And the part here, the piece of equipment, is a PIX 270i. PIX 270i. And so the way it works is they work in synchronization. If I hit record on one, the other one will record as well. It'll take them a second to synchronize, but then once they synchronize, they start recording. Right now, there's no signal coming into this one, so I'm not going to demonstrate the recording because it won't work without a signal being generated. This side here is just the center camera over in Element Live, and right now the camera's off. That's why there's no signal. This one here is the program feed from Element Live. So basically, again, in simplest terms, what that means is if it's on the side screens in Element Live, it's showing up right here. And that's how that works. Now, to play it back is very simple. If I hit play on one side, watch what happens. You'll see that some blinking appears. Just like that. That means they're locking up, they're getting in sync, and they start playing back together. Okay, so now we're in playback mode. If we want to stop it, we just simply hit stop. Okay, and then they both stop at the same time. Okay, let's see. This might work a little better. There we go. Okay, so the other thing I want to show you, this is like pretty important, is how to look at the files. So we record a couple of different times over the weekend, especially on Saturdays. How do you know what's what? So if you look here at the bottom right-hand corner of the LCD screen, that you'll see a number. This one says center 12042. Now, if I hit fast forward, you'll see what happens. Like if I just hit it once, it jumps back and forth. Okay, so 43 is the last file. It goes back to 42, 41, and there's only 3 files. So there's 41, 42, and 43. And on this side, it's got 63, 62, 61. So what happens is that the interval between them is 20. So if this is on 41, this is on 61. Okay. I'm not sure why. It was just set up like that by default. But if you'll notice that if I hit fast forward, they go in sync together. Okay, so the files stay in sync, right? So right now I'm on 42 here, and I'm on 62 right here. Okay, so that's how you know you're playing the right file. So what happens is on Saturday when we're recording, we just have to keep track. Okay, was 42 the 5 o'clock service or the 6:30? Or was it just some test footage? So as long as we know what that is, we know how to cue it up. And again, to do playback, I'm going to go to 43 and hit play. And you'll notice now that they're playing together. And what me or one of the team leads or a staff person will do is we'll set a cue marker. Right now it's playing service back from the very, very beginning. Which is fine, but you know, we want to get it right up into the point where the message opener starts. So what I've done is I've went in and set a cue marker up, and so if I hit fast forward button while it's playing, you can see that it's going to jump to cue number 1, and that is right when we go into the message opener. You saw Pastor Aaron getting ready to exit the platform after the verbal announcements, and now we're in the message opener. And if you want to pause it, there is no pause button. You just hit play. And what will happen is it'll start blinking, and you can see that it's blinking on both sides. That's how you know you're paused. So what I like to do is in the morning, if I'm setting this up for Fireside, I figure out what file I want. I'll hit play. I'll let them synchronize, so you'll see they're blinking. And once they stop blinking, you'll see the file play. Now they're in sync. I'll hit pause. And now it's blinking again, so I'm in pause mode. And then what I'll do is I'll hit fast forward until I see my cue. I just tap it once. There's my cue. Now I'm queued up and I'm ready for playback. So after the verbal announcements are over and we're ready to cue the message during Fireside service, wait for the service director's cue. Or if I'm the service director on my cue, I'll hit it. So, okay, the pastor up there is making their verbal announcements, stand by, and cue message. And so you'll hit the button, and it'll start rolling, and then what will happen is over here, the service director or whoever is operating the switcher will simply hit side, because we're using PIX number 2 side, and boom, it's on the side screens. And then we'll also hit side for auxiliary 1, and boom, now it's on the center screen as well. So now we are in the video service, okay? So there's a couple other components we don't have time to get into today. I just wanted to give you a real quick overview of how this device works and of how the switcher works. I want to get into this button, this piece of equipment next time, and the hyperdeck next time. These are important pieces of equipment. Typically, most team members won't have to do anything with them, but it's still good to know. So if you have questions, hit us up, and we're super glad we can have you guys be on the team and be a part of what we're doing here at Element Church. Have a great day.